Hi, everybody. I'm Scott Stevenson, your host for this edition of Someone You Should Know. Today, we have a special treat. We have Nadine Shweiri. Nadine began her career as a certified nursing assistant and earned an associate's degree in science and registered nursing from Quincy College in the year 2000. She brings over 20 years experience in caregiving to seniors. Her work experience for 15 of those years has focused on non-medical senior housing and day services. She's worked as a director for an adult day health program, as a director for an assisted living and independent retired living community, which she does today because she's the director at Faring Way in South Weymouth. For the last several years, Nadine's career path has focused exclusively on senior living issues for older adults, the wellness of seniors, and dementia. Today, she's here to talk about 10 skincare safety tips for seniors. And I can tell you that as a senior, I never paid much attention to my skin until I became a senior, and now I do. So here is Nadine Shweiri.
Thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate that. And thank you for all of those who are going to be watching this and engaging in this informational session. So as Scott mentioned, my background is primarily nursing, and it's been mostly a wellness prevention style of nursing. Senior living services in Massachusetts are a non-medical model. So the role of the nurse and the team has to focus more on proactive and preventive measures that we can do, because our hands are quite tied with once a medical situation arises. So proactive and preventative care have always been something that I do quite extensively when it comes to education and advocacy. So we've noticed, finally, aside from the month of July this year, we finally had some great weather coming out of the winter, and we finally had some COVID reopening guidelines that really had people appreciating time outside and taking advantage of outdoor things, especially with COVID concerns, because outdoor gatherings do appear to be a little safer than indoor gatherings. However, you combine that with retirement living, where you're not working every day, you're spending your mornings on one porch or walking your dog and your afternoons on another porch. And without realizing it, you're spending a lot of time outside and exposed to the sun. So, we wanted to make sure from a skincare and safety standpoint, whether it's the natural lifestyle changes that begin to occur with retirement living, or whether it's things that naturally change over the years, like diet or long-term, what we've exposed ourselves to, we wanted our residents here to understand what type of impact being more mindful about your skin could have on their overall wellness. And we recently shared that with the Hingham Council on Aging, and we intend to continue to share segments like this with the greater South Shore community. So when it comes to skincare safety tips and sort of 10 factors for the older adults to understand, the first one I like to mention is diet. Our diet, that there's the old saying, you are what you eat, correct? Our diet has a direct impact on the health and wellness of our skin. So there are certain foods that have a great benefit when it comes to our skin integrity. Fatty fish, because it's high in omega-3, such as salmon. Dark leafy greens, such as spinach or kale, are great for skin. And things like nuts and fruits have a great impact on our skin. On the other hand, bad diet choices, poor diet choices, high sodium, or highly processed foods and the chemicals that go along with them can also play a role in how healthy our skin continues to be as we get older. The next factor, number 2 that I have listed, is exercise. Believe it or not, exercise, because it improves blood flow, not just systemically, but even small capillaries within your face and so forth. It improves blood flow in general, which helps to repair and rejuvenate skin cells and keeping them looking as fresh as possible. The process of exercising, both from the cardiovascular standpoint and the just sweating it out standpoint, helps remove toxins that otherwise could be damaging our cells, especially since the exercise aids in metabolism. And the exercise helps to reduce and manage stress. And stress is actually our next big factor when it comes to skin care, safety, and skin impact. Stress in itself increases our body's cortisol levels, and cortisol naturally increases oil production. So, you know, when at any age, teenagers, older adults, you've heard of stress and pimples or breakouts coinciding with each other. And that is completely true because that cortisol can increase that oil production. Stress also increases your systemic inflammation. And with what in that systemic inflammation is it's your body sort of fighting off or react to things. So inflammation can happen if you have an injury. Inflammation can happen if you're stressed out. Inflammation can happen from just a minor pull or a tear, but your body fighting to heal itself and bring it back to normal is the definition of inflammation in many ways. So stress in itself can activate inflammation, which isn't good. And stress also alters proteins that will help or should help with elasticity. So if the stress is damaging proteins that otherwise keep our skin supple and smooth, without it, we're at greater risk for wrinkled or shriveled skin, which never looks that great when you're trying to focus on beautiful skin. So the next factor, factor number 4, is sleep. So I think that, you know, we've all experienced times in our lives with disruptive sleep, whether it's you had a new baby or you had a wonky work schedule. But naturally, as people get older, a lot of feedback I receive is people are up quite a bit at night to use the bathroom, or they're just lighter sleepers in general. And we're finding as we get older that 7 to 9 hours of sleep, sometimes more, especially if there's a health-related circumstance involved. 7 to 9 are at least needed to keep skin moisturized and cells working efficiently. So without that amount of sleep, your cells are already at a disadvantage when it comes to looking as healthy as they can and the efficiency of them working. Sleep is directly tied with less collagen production. So as a woman, I know that a lot of the different types of products out there help and manage collagen production because that's what gives the fullness and helps prevent those wrinkles with adding to full supple skin. So less sleep equals less collagen. So instead of spending all this money on these amazing creams, if you just got the right sleep and managed your stress and exercised, and as I mentioned, diet, you're already going to be at a better advantage. Sleep promotes repair, cellular repair through healthy blood flow. So as we're sleeping, our body's circulatory system does most of its recovery. So recovery meaning we've worked ourselves all day, we go to bed at night, and that's how our body resets and rejuvenates for the next day. So without that sleep, we're not allowing for that healthy repair and blood flow in general. So the next one I like to mention or share is vitamin supplementation. And I always like to start with a reminder that you should always consult with your doctor before starting any new medication. Even supplements have been known to potentially interact with prescribed medication. So it's important to speak to your doctor about it. However, there are some great basic vitamins that have been around forever that have a great impact or results when it comes to skin. The first one is vitamin D. Vitamin D is known to help with skin tone, reducing inflammation, and with specifically for chronic skin conditions such as psoriasis or eczema. The amazing thing is that vitamin D, you don't even have to necessarily take in a pill form. You could just go outside every day for a little bit of sun exposure. They say that even minutes a day can make a huge difference. And not to sidetrack, but not only with your skin, but it can help alter or reduce the effects of depression and anxiety just from being outdoors and in the sunshine. So the sun can do an amazing, it has an amazing part in our body's ability to heal, but you also have to make sure it's not in too much excess. Vitamin E is another one, and that protects against harmful sun damage, such as UV light. So vitamin D is something we get from the sun, but vitamin E can help protect us from the damage from the sun. They kind of sound a little bit like they're in conflict with each other. But again, everything in moderation. Vitamin C enhances sunscreens and collagen synthesis. So if you want to optimize your effects of sunscreen and optimize your effects from any collagen you're naturally producing or putting on your face, having a good source of vitamin C would definitely do that. And lastly, one of the many vitamins I like to mention is vitamin K, because vitamin K can help with both healing and blood flow, which is important as we're trying to keep our skin repaired, rejuvenated, and as healthy as possible. So in addition to the supplements, the next piece I like to mention is sunscreen and sun exposure. So retirement years, as I mentioned earlier, they can oftentimes coincide with more leisure time and more exposure to the sun during peak UV times. So protecting your skin daily as a part of your morning skincare regime is important, especially if you live in more sun exposed areas or closer to the equator. I know here up in New England, a lot of the clients I service are snowbirds, and they are down in Florida for quite an extended amount of time. So even if you don't think you need it up here in New England, if you're a snowbird and you're heading to Florida or closer to the equator, absolutely having screen as a part of your morning skincare regime is very important. And then protecting your skin by wearing layers, reapplying sunscreen throughout the day, and again, paying attention to your exposure times. I know that my parents are officially retirees now, and they've been doing a lot of work with my sister's dog. She got a puppy about 1 year ago. And my father is of Middle Eastern descent, and he is so golden right now, you know, with his skin coloring, because he walks the dog about 5 times a day and has morning coffee on one porch and an afternoon coffee on another porch. And he is at an advantage where he has that increased melanin, and which is a product in your skin that allows for it to respond to sun exposure and gives it that darker color. However, it doesn't mean he's at any less risk for skin cancer concerns or aging concerns. So, my mother, on the other hand, in her good old Irish blood, she has to be very concerned with her retirement years and protect her skin differently. Her body's response to the sun is different when it comes as compared to my father's. And all of those things do play a role in it. But regardless as to your cultural backgrounds, you should be protecting your skin regularly. So when it comes to products as another element of skincare safety, speaking of products that we use for our face or our skin in general, our skin overall can handle quite a bit, but our facial skin does tend to be a little bit more sensitive. But you want to focus on softer cleansing products, especially as you get older. You don't need the things that are aggressively drying and getting rid of that increased oil production if you're not producing as much oil. So if you're not as stressed as when you were working, you might find a change in your skin. And you want to make sure that the products you're using are changing with your skin as well. And you want to focus on products that help moisturize the skin naturally because it becomes drier with age. So those are two factors that you want to consider as your body's changing. Environmentally, you want to consider how certain things can affect your skin as well. For example, dry heat exposure. Depending on the type of heat you have in your home, one of the biggest culprits is your car, your vehicle, and the heat that comes out of that in the winter. And, for me, even with younger skin, I noticed that my hands right across here from probably driving and holding the steering wheel and my cheeks end up so dry and cracked. But that's exactly where the heat from the vehicles is coming and hitting my face. So if you have long drives or frequent drives, be considerate of that heat exposure. Same thing with hot showers. Showers can definitely do that to you as well. They're very comforting and relaxing in the moment, but those hot showers are actually dehydrating your skin long term. Other environmental factors include things like air pollution, allergens such as pollen, and secondhand smoke. So those are things that are difficult because we can't really control them, right? But they do play a role in how our skin responds to them. The next piece is consumables. So it's a little different than diet. Diet is more sort of the meals that we're eating. The consumables I think of are things that are sort of our pleasure points. So sugars, alcohol, even smoking, those definitely play a huge role in our skin's response to rejuvenation and staying healthy. Feedback has shown that reducing sugar intake by 25 or 50% can have a huge impact, take years off your life. There's someone that I follow on social media that recently took out sodas, carbonated sodas and drinks out of her diet that had a lot of sugar in them. Even the diet ones have a lot of sugar. And her skin looks 10 years younger in just 30 days, which is wonderful. That's a very standard response that we see from that. Alcohol also plays a role in skin rejuvenation. Not only does it impact the cells in a healthy way, it also dehydrates us quite significantly. So you're ending up with this double whammy where the cells were damaged and we're now dehydrated. So to rehydrate and repair the cells, if we're doing that daily or several times a week, that definitely takes its toll on our skin. I think smoking doesn't need any explanation beyond that. We've been hearing about smoking and how it affects our skin for decades now. But there are still people who are struggling to to quit. And that's still an active piece of their day-to-day life. And that will definitely take its toll on their skin integrity. And then lastly, when it comes to hydration, with hydration, water awareness, we don't check the quality of our water very often and consume water rich foods. So the regulations when it comes to water quality have recently changed. And what that means is that a lot of towns that were doing just fine with their water numbers and reports have had slight downticks, and they're no longer in an ideal category. In most of these cases, as in the South Shore and surrounding towns, the water itself hasn't changed. It's just that the expectations at the water treatment facilities has changed, and they have disclosed that to us. So when people are worried about that, you can certainly add filters, something as simple as a Brita filter, or you could pay for a more advanced filter. You can have the water come in from different sources, but knowing the source of your water, everything from what you brush your teeth with, what you drink what you boil your pasta in, all of that is important. And we typically don't spend enough time trying to understand that and having confidence in where our water is coming from. So the next piece is, again, being mindful about water intake. Many of us don't enjoy drinking water. It's more like a chore, like eating our vegetables when we were 5 years old. And especially if we are on a medication that acts as a diuretic, then every bit of water we're taking in is being excreted out through our urine. So I know many people that are reluctant to drink water because they had lunch or were going to the mall with a friend of theirs or a neighbor, and they don't want to be spending the next 4 hours in the bathroom. They want to enjoy their day. So there's medications such as Lasix or hydrochlorothiazide that are very common medications that older adults end up on, but it will also have an impact on their quality of living. And they don't want to be tied to the bathroom for the next several hours. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't drink water, but perhaps it means you need to discuss with your doctor if there was a different time you should take this medication so that you can still enjoy your day without avoiding water, which in turn means that you could become dehydrated. So we tend to avoid water at night because we don't want to be up all night. But then if you're on Lasix, people are avoiding water all day as well. And that's not very helpful either. So how much water do you need? That is a very personal question, but it is something that I like to finish with because there is a nice little formula that you can do to figure that out. So depending on how much you weigh, they usually say that, for example, if you weigh 160 pounds, that you should have about, if you divide that by 2, so 80, and they say that if you're very active, that should be the amount of ounces that you have in a day. So that is a lot of water, but again, it's very specific based on how much you exercise, what kind of goal your doctor has for you. Are they trying to keep you hydrated, or are they trying to keep fluid away from your body? It varies from person to person. So I like to share, and I have it here. This is my 40-ounce water bottle. So I have 2 of these when I exercise every morning, just through my exercise routine, at least 1, usually 2. And then throughout the day, I have about 2 to 3 more of these. So That's a lot of water. That's about 160 ounces of water a day for me. But on a day I wasn't exercising, I might just have two of these, 80 ounces. So, and the funny thing is I've been told during facials and whatnot that I'm dehydrated. So, and that's with getting 4 of those every day. It is so personalized. You need to not only listen to your body, but listen to your doctor about what formula of figuring out based on your weight, your medications, and your age, what formula works best for you. So those are the 10 different sort of factors when it comes to skincare. There are absolutely many more. We couldn't list them all. We'd be here all day. But I hope that this information at least gives you some new thought or perspective on different things that you can do to be more mindful about your skincare routine.
Thank you, Nadine. That was very interesting. Now, I'm a guy, and all my life I have been taught don't use creams. That's something that the girls use. And now as I became older, my wife said to me, you know, your hands feel like leather. Would you do something? And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And she said, you're supposed to use cream. So what would you recommend I do?
You know, there are many different products out there. It is a very big industry when it comes to money making as well. So I definitely think if your skin is feeling dry or feeling like sandpaper, it's a great indicator that your skin needs to be moisturized. So there's 2 different pieces. There's moisturization and then there's hydration. So hydration is from within, right? The fluids we take in and what type of cellular rejuvenation we can make from the inside out. But then hydration is, moisturization is what we can do to protect the skin layers that are there. So it's great to find a lotion that's moisturizing to your skin. And it's hard because sometimes, depending on what type of work you do, if you moisturize your skin well, but then you're in the kitchen a lot and you're unscrewing things, the next thing you know, it's like a slippery mess, right? So you want to find something that works for your lifestyle, because you also don't want to be applying something, but then washing it right off because you feel like while you have this on, you can't do anything. So I will share with you a little trick that I feel like women have been told quite a bit over time. Vaseline works wonders. And I will also share with you that Vaseline before you go to bed with some socks or gloves could be an amazing piece as well. For older adults, what I tell them and worry about is if you either forget you have that Vaseline on, or in the morning, you don't think about it, you step right in the shower, you don't need a thick coat, but even a very thin coat of Vaseline could become a fall risk or a safety risk. But even when, I go and get a pedicure and a manicure once a month, and they will always tell people with bad or cracked skin, use Vaseline. It's cost effective. Most people already have it in their home. But when it comes to different creams, they make so many products, it definitely can get overwhelming. I usually just start with something that's easy to find, Lubriderm, Aveeno, and they definitely have a moisturized lip in them that has a protective layer without being too greasy or oily. I need something that isn't going to stain my clothes and still allow for me to work without feeling like I'm a human slip and slide. And most people feel the same way.
Until I got older, I never had a problem with my heels, but I've noticed that in the winter now, I start to develop cracks in the heels, and they can get pretty bad, especially if you have diabetic neuropathy, which a lot of people do when they get older. Mm-hmm. Any solutions for that problem of the cracking heels? How do we prevent that from happening?
So again, I've been told Vaseline works wonders. But you mentioned a great piece, and diabetes and diabetics in general are at such great risk for skin integrity concerns that could be very serious and lead to things like infections and whatnot. So if there's any diabetes involved or peripheral vascular disease where blood flow to the extremities, right, the fingers and the toes is compromised, I definitely encourage people to check with their doctor first. But usually I've seen, my mother's a diabetic as well, and she uses Vaseline. There is a cream that Dr. Scholl's makes that's an advanced therapy heel cream that had done wonders for her in the past. But definitely older adults plus complex medical conditions like diabetes should double check with their doctors. But there's definitely creams out there that do some magic.
Well, lastly, when my mother was in her 80s, I went home and I noticed that there were little specks of things on the rug. And then I looked at her lower legs and I saw that she had skin that was sort of flaking off in little tiny pieces. What's all that about, and what do you do about that?
So, two important things that happen to men and women, especially in those advanced aging years, I'd say 75, 85 plus, especially those who are being taken care of and they're in a dependent care-based situation. It is so important for caregivers to know or understand how the skin after a shower especially needs to be thoroughly dried and then properly moisturized. And without those steps, air drying and without wiping off with a towel can allow dead skin to accumulate. So it's not very common nowadays, but 20 years ago as a CNA, when you would take off the knee highs or the stockings for the elderly ladies at the end of the night, it was almost like the inside of a snow globe with dead skin and debris sort of flying everywhere, because that was such a prevalent problem. So that could definitely be prevented. It's not just as important to wash skin, it's just as important to dry skin with a towel or something that could work as an exfoliator to get dead skin off. And then once that drying of the skin area happens, a layer of moisture, a moisturizer is helpful. The other big place that occurs that can be concerning, two places for someone who is dependent on us, is behind the ears if you don't wash and then dry thoroughly. And then the other place is between the toes. And literally the best way, and I was trained this way in CNA school, if this was a towel and here are the toes, you want to go in between each and every toe, up and down. That's how you prevent debris and dead skin mostly from accumulating, but that's also how you prevent it from staying and getting infected and not so pretty when it comes to the smells and the visuals.
Well, Nadine, this has been wonderful. I believe that every senior citizen that I know has skin. And most of them have some form of a problem one way or the other with it. And you've given us a lot of good, helpful tips that we can take to heart and perhaps improve our lot and make us better for those senior years that we're in. I thank you so very much. And that'll be it for this week of Someone You Should Know. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.